introduction, and I think some if I ask everybody to keep the mic in a mute position. Hope that I will not be getting any echo also. Uh, Hope all the participants are safe and taking care. Uh, Thanks to Bharti Vidyapeeth College of Engineering, New Mumbai, for organizing the FDP on a very interesting topic of 3D printing and design, which is very close to my heart, and giving this particular opportunity to interact with all the participants in this particular FDP. Special thanks to Dr. Pramod for keeping the communication clear right from the email invitation and organizing the online platform for interaction. Only thing is that he has given me the two sessions. One is a pre-lunch session and another one is a post-lunch session. So I think it's a responsibility on my shoulder to see that the participants are comfortable in both these lectures. And I'm really happy that the total time given for these particular lectures, each lecture is sufficiently large, like 1.5 hours, so I can interact with this participant in much more detail. So one request from my side to promote, like if you can keep the track of all the questions of the participants during my lecture delivery. Maybe you can then ask me in one go the questions or the queries raised by the participants. So I'm going to share now my screen. Hope everyone can see. Can you see my slide now? Is it? Let me say. Yeah. Can you see the slide now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes, so, sir. Yeah. Topic is about the 3D printing, and that too for the class 3 medical devices.
So
now,
there is some.
Okay, sir, you can.
So maybe I think anytime just promote, tell me if there is any problem related to the presentation, because once I start presentation, I'll be only looking at the slide and may not be knowing what the problem with communication will be later on. So you can inform me anytime. I think this is the first time that I'm looking using mobile and a laptop together. It seems that we need all type of electronic devices whenever we'll be online. Okay. Yeah. So this particular topic, 3D printing in class 3 medical devices, is specifically selected for the presentation. And I have one more lecture after the gap of 1 hour, and that is about the bioprinting. That means about how exactly these class 3 devices to be used extensively in the medical domain. So let us look at this particular approach of how this 3D printing is to be used in the class 3 medical devices. I have specifically made the class 3 devices because class 1 and class 2 devices, most of the devices, I will show you also in one of my slides, like how we classify the devices. But the class 1 and class 2 devices, hopefully we are confident enough to design and develop. But class 3 devices are the most critical, most rather the problematic, and therefore using the 3D printing in class 3 devices is the need of an hour. So I'm going to rather discuss with you in detail. At the same time, at the end, I would also like to tell you what will be the takeaway message after our presentation, after the presentation. So now the outline of my talk will be introduction, standard implant and Indian manufacturer, like what are the points of concern and what exactly the class 3 devices I'm more interested in. Then I will be discussing about the patient-specific implant, the 3D printing in medical domain, research that we have carried out at VNIT, because that is more important, and finally the conclusion. In all these particular topics of it will be interesting for me to tell you that how the engineers are helping the doctors, and ultimately doctors are getting confidence in treating the complex cases. The first is about introduction. Let me tell you that we are working along with IIT Bombay and the DM Institute of Medical Sciences, Varda. And this is the CAD-CAM center. If you can see my cursor, where exactly we execute our research work. We will this particular work related to the 3D printing in medical domain. It is only possible if you have the collaboration with more and more institutes. So that's the important thing everyone has to look at. That whenever you are working on a field which is multidisciplinary, naturally it has to be multi-institutional also. So multidisciplinary, multi-institutional is the need of an hour. And I'm really happy to tell you that we are now associated with many institutes, and therefore it is possible for us to get success in this particular topic. The various facilities that we do have at the CAD-CAM center, our rapid prototyping machines, then the CNC machine, then our induction furnace, and the electrochemical machining and all that, and the 3D bioplotter, which is the state-of-the-art instrument with us, and I'm going to talk about this later on in the next lecture. And what is the filters to me as far as this particular facilities at CAD-CAM center is concerned? That we do have good number of instruments or the state-of-the-art machinery with us, but all of them are under one roof. Many premium institutes like ISC and IITs, they may be having the better facilities or better instrumentation than what we do have. But as they are located in a different laboratories, it becomes rather difficult for anybody to rather visit the laboratory, maybe getting the permission, looking at that and all that. But if you look at our facilities in CAD-CAM center, you'll find that all of them are under one roof. So once you enter the CAD-CAM center, you can see all these particular machineries and how best we are using it for the research and deployment of the research. So this is the CAD-CAM center which I have already shown you, and this is interesting project which we will be presently executing under IIT Bombay. And this particular center is a unique one in the sense that the whatever the research that we are executing under this particular project, we always look at how best it can be deployed. So use of the research for the benefit of the common man. That is what exactly is the model. And I'm rather going to explain you the details about what exactly we have rather in as far as the research is concerned, and rather at the same time how it is benefiting to the common man. So these are the two machines which we are presently using. Out of that, the first one, this one where I'm just putting my cursor, is the BSP system, which is breakaway support system of FDM of ERP, and this is actually the SS. Many times it happens like the people, they always ask like why not to go for the metal. I think many of you must be aware of like the 3D printing. The metal part is also possible to fabricate, but generally we divide the whole RP process or the whole 3D printing into two types. One is the laser based, another one is the non-laser based. Now, non-laser based system is better as far as the developing countries are concerned. It is because the maintenance of the system is very easy, and it is cost effective also. If you go for the laser based system, this there will be a lot of problem as far as the maintenance of not only the maintenance of the laser, but also the maintenance of the whole system. And that's why the non-laser based systems are always preferred. Let me tell you quickly through this particular slide that what are the various applications of the rapid prototyping machine, 3D printing, we call it by the different name, layer manufacturing, freeform application, and all that. These are all the same name given to the system where the thing I'm going to explain to you, like this is getting the part layer by layer. Many of the participants may be already aware of this 3D printing because a lot of things are available on the net. But the application point of view, if you look at, I have actually divided this into the two. One is an engineering application, another one is the medical application. So in the medical application, you'll find that the medical mock surgery, implant design, implant manufacturing, these are the core field where you will find that the RP can be used, 3D printing can be an engineering application. It is about the innovative design and manufacturing, pattern making, functional prototype and design. And nowadays, the Industry 4.0 is the buzzword, and there you will find that the 3D system or this 3D printing is considered to be one of the key area, and there a lot of work is being executed as far as the UV applications are concerned. We are going to look into this medical domain in much more detail, but let me start with this particular slide where I'm just showing the doctor, and we always say that thank you to him because our family remains healthy. And that's why whenever we have a healthy family, we always say thank you to the doctor. And if you look at this particular slide, I have mentioned that the thank you to orthopedic surgeon because the family becomes vibrant. That means moving. So if you find that a family is moving or vibrant, it is because of the orthopedic surgeon. And therefore, we will be closely associated with the orthopedic surgeon. We always want ourselves to be always vibrant. So how exactly any orthopedic surgeon gets the benefit from the 3D printing? That is the main motto of my discussion first. And there I would like to first discuss one very interesting point, that the orthopedic surgeon is mechanical when metallic implant is. Remember, whenever anything related to the metallic work or metallic implant is concerned, naturally we as the mechanical engineer or we as an engineer, we always start taking interest. And orthopedic surgeon, he mostly handles the metallic implant, and therefore we are closely rather related to the orthopedic surgeon, and we generally call that the orthopedic surgeon himself is a mechanical engineer. So what are the different types of the implants that he handles, and how exactly this implant is interest to us as per the design is concerned? So in this slide, I am just showing you not only the standard implants, but also the classification of the medical devices. Look at this particular picture. It's very interesting because the various implants has been shown, like hip implant, the shoulder implant, the knee implant, even the spinal implant and all that. These are generally the standard implants which are fitted into the patient body. Out of that, the hip implant and the knee implant, they are very important because the body is in motion only because of these two implants. So if at all the knee joints gets broken, or if the hip joints get broken or damaged, naturally you must be seeing it also that it is necessary to put the implant immediately in that particular patient. Otherwise, the patient becomes immobile. Mobility is more important in the whole system. So if you don't look at these two implants seriously, it is difficult for any patient to get any advantage. Even if you have the rest of the things like these bone screws and the other so-called the implants ready, but these two are very important, and we are going to rather discuss about these implants in detail. But let me show you about this particular slide also from the general category of the devices. So the picture itself makes it more clear. Class 1, class 2, and class 3. And this is generally the classification that is being done by the under the EU FDR. But what is interesting for us to look at, the class 1 and class 2 devices, they are not actually implanted in the patient body. So you can see here that there is a wheelchair, then there is an injection and all that, the syringe and all that. They are actually not implanted into the patient body. But if you look at a class 3 device where they have shown this particular knee implant, so you find that it is actually implanted into the patient body. So we rather classify the devices from the low risk to the high risk. There is another way by which the devices can be classified. You may say that the class 1 device is a low risk device. Class 2 device is a moderate risk device, but class 3 device is a high risk device. So high risk devices are classified as a class 3 devices. Looking at any device, medical device, whether it is classified, maybe documented as the class 1, class 2, or class 3, we will always say that if a particular device is a high risk device, you have to say that it is a class. A very simple definition. And generally, it is accepted that if at all any particular device is implanted in the patient body, naturally it will become a class. And my focus will be on the implant meta that is fitted into the patient body. And that is what is a class 3 device I am more interested in discussing with you. At the same time, I will also be interested in telling you like what are the design aspects of these class 3 devices, and the how this particular thing is to be executed. And ultimately, we'll have to also see that the design of the implant or the design of this particular tip or the knee implant, how exactly it should be looked into from the patient, fitting that particular implant into the patient body. So this is very interesting and very important. So let's look at this in somewhat more detail. Before that, about these class 3 devices, why we are interested in, why we are interested in the design of the class 3 devices. That should be more important for us, because there are certain problems associated with the class 3 devices as far as the manufacturing in India is concerned. So what are the points of concern in that particular case? So here is the one of the very interesting slide where you'll find that I have written that there is the confidence on the manufacturer from the developed country. The doctors, they have the full confidence on the manufacturer from the developers. So any device which is a class 3, maybe we will call it as a high risk device. Whenever the high risk device is to be implanted into the patient body, the doctors, they have the full confidence on the manufacturer from the developer. And that is one of the major point of concern for us. I'm showing you in the same slide the statistics that the import of the medical devices in the year 2014-15 and in the year 2018-19, the data which is available. And you will look, you can see here that the total import, it has increased from 23,169 crores to 38,836 crores. Now, out of that, how many are the class 3 devices and all that? That's a different issue. But interesting point here is to look at why so much of import of the medical devices. That means we have to work hard and see that this import, which is increasing, needs to be controlled. Otherwise, what will happen? As I have mentioned here, the confidence on the manufacturer from the developed country, the doctor's confidence on the manufacturer developed country will definitely be more in years to come, and we will be paying heavily for the import of the medical devices. So that should be stopped. So this is one of the major point of concern for us. Look at this slide very carefully, and we will be revisiting this slide again at the end of the our presentation, because this point of concern needs to be taken care very seriously. Secondly, look at the manufacturing scenario in India. Leave apart the other so-called the graphs here, the paragraphs where I have mentioned about the patent publications and all that. But I am interested in this showing you this particular part of the picture, where you'll find that the patent filing about the medical devices is very, very poor. Look at this from 2009 to 2013, the hardly 834 to 111104. Now, in such scenario, what you'll find that there are less patent on the medical devices. That means there is no as such any innovation stage as far as the medical devices concerned. And this should be looked very carefully, and that is also one of the point of concern for us. Innovation, patent, this is important, and that too for the medical devices, as I already shown you in the last slide, that we have to see that if at all the innovation is or more patents are filed in the medical devices, hopefully our import will be less. The another interesting point is about the stiff competition with the manufacturer from the developer. This is very important because I am discussing with you about the implant, medical implant, metallic implant. So metallic implants which are already in the market, say for example hip implant or the knee implant, for which I am always telling you that they are more important for the common man in general, because that affects the mobility. So if you look at the market, there are more number of uh, international players who are actually in this particular implant manufacturing and implant market. So when we will be entering into this particular market, we have to face the stiff competition from this manufacturer, from the developer. Now, what type of the competition? Look at this particular figure. I have mentioned that the surgical tools that you require for implantation, it is not only the implant that you fit into the patient body, but you need certain surgical tools to fit that implant properly into the patient body. This is one of the key issue which the manufacturer from the developed country they handle. What they do, they not only design the implant, not only they manufacture the implant, but they also manufacture the surgical tools required to fix that particular implant into the patient body. And therefore, the doctor is at ease, because doctor knows that it is not the only the implant, but along with the implant, he will also has surgical tools developed by the same company, so that it will become easier for me to operate the patient. So these surgical tools for implantation, you can see so many surgical tools which are required for the implantation. All are actually manufactured by the company from the developed country, and therefore the implant is definitely sellable. Now, what we are going to do, we only look at the implant design and development, but we never look at the surgical tools for implantation. And that is why there is a stiff competition with the manufacturer from the development. So how exactly we had to rather take care of all these things is very important. Let me show you, before I actually talk about in short what exactly the points of concern is, about the medical devices and requirements and industry. For diagnosis, monitoring, prevention, or the treatment of various diseases, you'll find that there are n number of instruments which are being used. Out of that, we are only focusing on the instruments related to class 3. But in general, if you look at the picture, the global market is around 400 US dollar billion, and India is 6 billion US dollar per year, and it is growing 15%. What is more problematic is that over 80% devices are currently imported. Again, one more problem. That's what I have shown you one graph, pie chart, and this is another interesting. 80% are currently imported. problem also is that less than 300 Indian companies, that means very, very less number, they are having the GMP licenses, and 90% of them are having the turnover of less than 50 crores. Go and look at the, just Google it, find out the manufacture of the class 3 devices, maybe implant, whatever I say. You'll find that you can count on the fingers the how many companies are there as far as the implant manufacturing is concerned. And that is what is one of the major problems with our developing countries like India. So what are the basic problems, the points of in general? So points of concern, I am just noting down only two. Number one, entering the market which is dominated by imported standard implants. That's true. We'll have to see that we can compete with them. And number two, which is more important and which is not being properly taken care, is that the implant which are not available on the cell, that means they call it as a customized. You know, whatever I have written in the point number one is about a standard implant. But remember, the customized implant is also the need of an hour. So these are the two things where we are not properly focusing our attention. So let us look at this in somewhat more detail, and rather look at what exactly our focus should be. So the second point in my presentation is about the patient-specific implant. What type of the patient-specific implant we talk about, or rather why there is a need of customized implant or tailor-made implant, and that is what we are going to first look at. The customized implant is a need of it. You know, every human has a different anatomy. That's what we say, anatomical variation. And therefore, the implant needs to be designed for that particular patient. The another interesting point about this implant is that if you put a standard patient body, and if it doesn't fit to the anatomy of that particular patient, there may be the problem of resurgery. This needs to be avoided. This needs to be rather looked into. Sometimes I get the phone call, so I had to just go there and tell them that we call later on. Anyway, so there is a need of resurgery. So how best we can reduce that? At the same time, when we talk about a customized implant, how fast you can manufacture them. Remember, it is not only discussing about what type of the implant is to be designed for that particular patient, but it needs to be manufactured also. And the interesting point as far as our country is concerned is the cost factor, whether it is affordable when you talk about a customized implant. So all these things are very important. Let us look at it in somewhat more detail. We have also seen there are the people of different origins and races. The peoples are staying at a different geographical locations. Their anatomical size, as I already told you, that it varies. And there are the differences which are observed in Western or the Eastern counterparts of the world. And customized implant provides an optimal. Yeah, that's true. It has been also noticed that there is difference, or rather these anatomical changes required, or rather the implant required for the gender, different gender. So human require different implant than the male. So that's how the customized implant is to be designed, and that's why that is what the doctor here is saying. You demand a stem that fits your philosophy, that fits to the doctor saying that okay, this is what is the perfect one which fits to this particular patient. So these are all the points which we need to look into the detail. What is interesting for me to inform you that about the implant, the hip implant. we have actually carried out certain steps. That what type of the customization we should talk about when we will be discussing the hip implant. So for that, let me show you that what are the various parameters that we have considered for the hip prosthesis. This is the hip prosthesis, and we have considered various parameters when we have executed this in our project. So horizontal offset, vertical offset, neck shaft angle, shape of the femur. These are the various parameters we are looking into. And you will appreciate, okay, vertical offset, horizontal offset, this is what we are defined, and even the definition of the various parameters is also very clear. But you will appreciate the neck angle because as an engineer, we are always fascinated with angle. So here the neck shaft angle is important, and that's what I have shown here, A plus 90. This is A and then 90, and this is how it has to be looked into. Now, this neck shaft angle is really very interesting. What exactly this neck shaft angle talks about, or what exactly this neck angle talks about? We have actually carried out the studies of the patients in and around the central India, and we measured the parameters like horizontal offset, vertical offset, and the neck shaft. So let me show you the rather the data. So this is the number of patients, and this is the vertical offset in MM. And you'll find that the neck shaft and vertical offset, it varies from almost say 42 to 21 and all that. And these are all the number of patients. And the number of patients around 220. That too in and around Nagpur, that is in central India. So you'll find that there's so much of variation only in a particular location. Think of the whole population of India, and then the what type of the variation you will get it in vertical offset. Look at the another one, horizontal offset. Yes, you will also find that there are a lot of variation, and that actually help us to rather consider this horizontal offset as one of the parameter for designing of the hip implant. But as I already told you, we are fascinated by the neck angle. So the neck angle, this is very distant. So when you look at the neck shaft angle, see the neck shaft angle is 140 to 124, and see the variation. This is tremendous. So naturally, a particular patient, if at all he is having a neck shaft angle of 140, I'm just talking about an extreme case, 140. And if you are fitting the standard implant having a neck shaft angle of 120 in his body, naturally there will be a problem. And what we need to say to doctor, oh, you are fitting the standard implant, but his neck shaft angle is more and all that. So naturally the doctor will look at us. He'll say that, okay, you as an engineer, please give me that particular implant which is having a neck shaft angle of 140, or rather the stem that fits to that patient. So ultimately, it is our responsibility to look at this particular feature of how best it will be possible for us to get such type of the customized implant. I'm just informing you from one simple rather example of implant. And now this patient-specific implant, this is the challenge for the engineers, that how best it will be possible or how easy for us to develop such patient-specific implants. So the next one is about the 3D printing in medical domain. Yes. So 3D printing is the solution for that. About the 3D printing, I hope everybody is aware of, which we always call as the rapid prototyping. The basic thing is, the CAD file and then the slice file, that is a layer representation of the CAD file, and sending that information to the rapid prototyping machine, which builds the part layer by layer. That is what we are already aware of, and I think a lot of things are available in the uh, uh, literature, and not only literature, but even on the net also. I think you just look at the YouTubes and all that, and you will find it very interesting to see how exactly this 3D printing works as far as the part, physical part is concerned. In short, how do we rather explain the rapid prototyping? We say that converting the CAD file into the physical model using minimum human intervention and tools. That's all. That means the human intervention is minimum, and therefore the chances of making mistakes will be less. And at the same time, the tools required are also less. And this is what they always talk about as far as the simple explanation of the rapid prototyping in one sentence. What is interesting for us to look at again when we say that the 3D printing is used like the physical model of whatever I see on the computer as a 3D as a 3D camera. Okay, let us go for one more step further. The computed tomography, CT scan. Everybody is aware of this machine. And here, can we have the physical model of the body organ, like the one which I have shown it here? The physical model of body, brain, liver, heart, and all. Can we have it? The answer to this is yes, because the CT scan and rapid prototyping works on the same principle. The computer tomography is nothing but a slicing of the virtual slicing of the part or the organ, and rapid prototyping is building the part layer by layer. So slicing and the layer is almost the same. So the computer tomography and rapid prototyping works on the same principle, and therefore it is possible to rather get the physical model of the any organ. So this is a very interesting figure. You can see that the CT data, you can use it as an input to the RP machine, and RP machine directly gives you the physical model. So I'm just showing you here the model of a femur using the FDP machine. So this is in plastic, and you can use this as a say basic thing for the any manufacturing process. Maybe I'm using this as a patterning casting, and you'll find that it is possible for me to get a metallic implant. Yeah, this is the first metallic implant that we have developed in VNIT using the rapid prototyping machine, a 0.5 model of the femur bone. Now you'll find that the whole approach is really very interesting. Get the data from the CT scan. That input data is fed to the RP machine. RP machine will give the physical part, and the physical part can be used as a basis for the manufacturing, and then you can get a metallic implant. This is one of the interesting points that we can always look at. And what is interesting point here is to know that the whatever the part that we get it here, this is based on the CT scan data. That means it is a patient specific data. So it actually represents the patient specific data. And therefore we say that whatever the implant we will be manufacturing, that we will be actually manufacturing, taking the data from the patient. So this implant or if this particular bone is manufactured or fabricated, then this is the bone of a specific patient. So this is what in general we talk about implant manufacturing using that. I'll be now more interested in rather telling you about the research at VNIT, like what we have done. You know, that's why I always say that I like the advertisement of that घड़ी detergent bar. What they say, पहले इस्तेमाल करो फिर विश्वास करो. Exactly the same way. You have to rather first look at what we have done at research in VNIT related to this patient specific plan, and then only you should believe on us whatever we are discussing. I'll be rather inviting all of you to visit our CAD/CAM center and see what exactly the various implants that we have developed and fitted into the patient. So let us start discussing about it. In one of the R&D projects that we have completed in 2014 is about the development and testing of the customized joint replacement implant using layer manufacturing. Now this particular cycle actually indicates everything. We don't want this cycle to be completed because we don't want a healthy individual to meet with any accident or he should become a patient. But if at all he meets with an accident and he becomes a patient, then what we have to do, we have to take a CT scan of the patient, get the computer data related to the patient, the way I have already shown you in one of my slides. Use the medical imaging software to develop the implant which suits to his anatomy. And that is what it is indicated here. If you can see the CAD data. Now, this CAD data, or actually that is actually the implant that we have designed. You can then send it to the rapid prototyping machine, that is 3D printing machine, which will give you the model. And once you can use this model, maybe as a pattern in case of a casting, use the casting simulation to see that you can get the zero defect part. And finally, once you manufacture that metallic implant, test it, use it in the surgery of the patient, and the individual becomes a healthy individual again. So this is actually the complete process that we have developed under this particular project, which is funded by us by the RGSTC. And this we have finished from 2009 to 2014. So what we say, design to manufacturing to testing, and again, rather fitting that particular implant into the patient body, which is customized, which is tailor-made, which is patient-specific. Now, when you look at this particular project, I wish to rather show you some of the interesting implants that we have developed as a, you can say, the customization part of it, and how exactly we are handled. So this is one of the interesting case studies that we have executed, and we call it as the TMJ for bony ankylosis. TMJ stands for the temporomandibular joint. This is actually the joint which is which actually help us in opening the mouth, and it is at the end of this mandible. And you know, this bony ankylosis is one of the problem where the bone gets fused and it becomes difficult for the patient to open the mouth. So let me show you this particular figure, and you will find how exactly we have executed. Sorry for some figures where the blood is shown, but this is interesting to look at. This is the actually the patient. The actually is a 6 years old or 6-year-old girl. She was not in a position to open the mouth because she met with an accident and there was a bony ankylosis. And she was on a liquid diet for almost say 6 years. So you can see this particular part, which is actually the fused one, and this what we have got it from the rapid prototyping machine at VNIT. This we have actually got it from the CT scan of the patient, and then doctor, he has requested me, can we design a joint which will help this particular lady to open her mouth. And for that, what I have done, actually, I told him, okay, let us see how best you can design this particular joint. So, you know, when I looked at this particular RP model of a diseased organ, I have actually asked him to start designing the implant which he feels that will be useful, because doctor is the main actor. So, you know, doctor is rather, he was discussing with me about how the joint is to be designed. Yeah, doctor, I was a bit confused because whatever he was telling me, something on in the air, that this is how the curve should be, then there has to be some strength to the joint and all that. So I told him, okay, why don't you draw the figure of the that particular implant? So, you know, the doctor and the drawing, you know, we can't even understand what is written by the doctor, and I'm asking him to draw the figure of that particular implant. You know, ultimately what happened, I got confused because he was not in a position to draw properly the drawing. So I told him, okay, get the clay, you know, the children get the clay, and that's why you can see here the clay model. So I told him, okay, you develop the model using the clay. And what you will find that he has developed this particular model. So I have reverse engineered it and got the CAD model of the part on the system. And then I have started taking out the RP model of the joint. So we have n number of almost 6-7 iterations. And finally he said, okay, this is the perfect one. Because once I have the CAD model ready, it was easier for me to make any changes, whatever he suggested. And I have made so many changes based on how exactly the implant is to be designed. And finally, you'll find that he has approved one, the which we have rather used it as the basic model for manufacturing. And this implant is manufactured in metallic implant, which is fitted into the patient body. And you'll find that the patient who is now in a position to open the mouth. So this is what exactly the first successful case study that we have completed. And this has been published in the Rapidprototyping journal. You can refer the volume 17, number 5, 2011. And you'll find that the complete details are explained in that particular paper, that how we have developed this particular joint. The doctor got so much excited when the joint starts operating and the patient starts opening the mouth and all that. So he quickly, I would like to tell you a very interesting event here. The doctor said, sir, we will be calling the press conference for this success. I said, okay. So, the press people were called. So that's the first time I came to know that how to keep the press people very happy. You have to keep the refreshment ready on the table, because they don't have much time. So as soon as they see the good refreshment, they feel that, okay, they are giving a good hospitality to everybody. So anyhow, so we have arranged the refreshment, and there was a samosa in that plate. So this girl, she was looking at that samosa because for the last 6 years, she has not taken the bite of the samosa. So doctor asked her whether you would like to take the bite of the samosa. She said, yes, I would like to do that. And the first bite of samosa when she has taken, the satisfaction I have seen in her eyes and in general on her face, I have never experienced such satisfaction in my life, even after getting the promotion or after getting the PhD or after getting anything. So, so that satisfaction talks about our success, that talks about the usefulness of our research or our method for the benefit of the people in the society. So that's what I'm rather like to inform you, that the deployment of whatever we do, whatever the research you do, whatever the design you execute, that is something which cannot be compared with anything. So, that's what deployment is necessary. So that is one of the interesting case that we have finished. Then the another one is about the metatarsophalangeal joint. This is another very interesting point which we have rather designed the metatarsophalangeal joint, considering the X-ray and even going for the finite element analysis of the part that we have designed. So again, the method is rather getting the design, RP model, iteration, and then finally looking at it whether it will be possible to fit it properly in the patient body or not. And you'll find that this particular joint, which we call as a metatarsophalangeal joint, which is designed by us, which we have referred as a by the name Samku. Sam is for the doctor's name, and Ku stands for the Kuthe. So which we have fitted into the patient body. A unique case about this particular metatarsophalangeal joint is that we have rather obtained the data once the implant is fitted, and that we have done it for the next 2 years. So, the data, that's what we talk about, the feedback of the patient after the implant is fitted is there, and that shows the confidence of the patient in and the doctor together. Ultimately, you'll find that the patient, he finds it very easy to because he's relieved of the pain which he was having because of the K-wire. And ultimately, you'll find that that particular metatarsophalangeal joint that we have fitted into patient body, that helps him in dancing in his marriage. He was married later, and he danced like anything. And he said to his wife, "It is because of this professor and doctor I danced a lot in my marriage." Anyhow, that's what exactly is the one of the interesting case study. Again, you look at here; these are all the devices which are fitted into the patient body, and it's only possible because of the 3D. The another case that is related to the mandible, which is affected by the malignant tumor. You can see this particular mandible, and this is the tumor which needs to be resected. Generally, when the tumor goes to such a level, the first option for the doctor is to resect it. So once you resect it, there will be deformity in the face. So can we remove it by using designing the implant? Answer is yes. That is what we have done it in one of the cases where we have fitted this particular implant, which we have designed and actually fitted into the patient body. And you can see that this is the patient before the implantation, and this is the patient after the implantation. And this particular paper we have published in Journal of Maxillofacial Surgeon, volume 71 in 2013. So you'll find that these are all the things possible. Again, the design and development is in the same way, the way we have done the TMD joint. But when such customized implant is to be fabricated, when this customized implant is to be fitted into the patient body, naturally, 3D printing is the key for the success of the implant. Ultimately, what you'll find that all these implants, whatever we have designed, they are really very important, because the patient will get implant. This type of implants are not available on the shelf. We have gone one more stage ahead, for which I will be discussing in my next lecture also. There is what is called as customized G, or what we call as a surgical guide. So these are the customized surgical guide that we have also designed, so that it will become easier for the doctor to resect the part and ultimately fit the implant, which can be very easily designed using the various softwares like Thematic and all. I'm going to discuss about this in much more detail in my next lecture. But these are all the things which are very important, and all these are possible only because of the 3D printing. So this all is possible because of the project that presently we are executing, which we call by the short name BETIC, Biomedical Engineering and Technology Incubation Center, which is having a financial outlay of 39.39 crores. So this figure is very interesting. Doctor is demanding something from the engineer, and engineer is ready with that particular solution. So that's what exactly we do want, and therefore we always say that the BETIC, which is a short form of our project, we always say that it is a R&D project where D is bigger. R talks about the research, and D stands for the development, but we call it as a deployment. Now, when I say the deployment, remember, the deployment means whatever the research you do, there is no restriction on how many papers you publish, how many patents you file, how many patents you get granted. But ultimately, that research is to be deployed, is to be used for the benefit of the common man. And that is what we always say, that it is a R&D project where the D is bigger. So in this particular project, the medical device innovation ecosystem, that is what is being developed. And we follow the 3 processes: define, develop, deliver, and deploy. Remember here, if you look at these 4 processes, this is really very interesting, because we take the help of doctors right from the first stage. Recall my presentation related to the TMD joint. I told you, like, doctor, he was explaining me how to design that particular joint. So we take the doctor into confidence right from the first stage. We develop it. Then we deliver it. That means we have to look at whether there is an entrepreneur who can actually develop it, which is possible to deploy. Otherwise, in the research side, we will say that, okay, this can be developed, this can be fabricated. But fabrication to the level of deployment is more important. And that is why the delivery is also important process, and then the deployment. So this is how we do our product and promotions. We have a lot of rather the stages like various people, facilities with three centers are there: IIT Bombay, VNIT Nagpur, and College of Engineering Pune. So this is the 2015-16 data. Now we have exceeded that with more number of products and more number of patents. But ultimately, we start with the unmet needs. That's what I told you. And ultimately, you'll find that the uh, this help uh, creating the employment. In short, the Betty can be represented with such a figure. I hope seems to be more complicated, but I would like to quickly explain you. Hospitals, government, industry, and academia, all of them are together with this particular defined, develop, and deliver and deploy process. And this is a translational R&D for the medical device innovation. So these are all the things that we only look at, and we have now into the various medical devices. As I already told you, you are always welcome to visit any of our center and look at what exactly we are doing under this umbrella of the Betty. Before I actually look into rather the enter into the conclusion, let me tell you about the product design. What exactly the product design talks about. Now, I'm not going to discuss about the product design from the point of view the way the product design is taught in the engineering course curriculum. Because when I told you that I had to design the temporomandibular joint, so naturally the design is important. So what exactly the product design talks about? You know, this is the very interesting figure that it starts with the concept, goes with the engineering, then company, and finally the customer. So customer satisfaction or meeting the need of the customer starts with the concept, and therefore the concept has to be very, very perfect. You know, the concept to customer, if you can properly go, you may not fall in these deep valleys. Okay, like valleys or not, it cannot. You will not fall into that. And therefore, this is interesting. I would like to tell you that this is how another way by which you can look at how the research, development, and application. So ultimately, we have to avoid this valley because the investment also talks a lot. And the interesting point here is that we feel that the 60% is the research, 30% is the development, and 10% is application. Actually, it is the reverse. The starts with 10% of research and 60% is deployment. Deployment talks about use of that particular device in the patient for the benefit of the patient. And therefore, we have to focus more on the 60 side. And no doubt, 10 is also equally important, but that is what is very important to look at, that how best you can get the things done by using the government, academia, and industry together. Let me tell you about the concept in the product design, which is very interesting. The research to be sellable, technology and science should go hand in hand. That is very interesting. Now, let me tell you a very interesting point here so that you will also understand the concept, how important it is. Now, you can see here the bullet train, which I have shot it when I visited Japan. And you can see the shape of the engine of the bullet train. You know, the bullet train, when it was designed, that time there was a problem that when the bullet train used to come out of the tunnel, there used to be sonic boom, a lot of noise. So the Japanese people, they are very much concerned about the sound. And they started disliking all these things. They said that how come that this sound is so big and your bullet train is not properly designed? So that design engineer, he started thinking about what should be the shape so that this sonic boom should not be there. So he was the bird watcher, and therefore he has actually watched the kingfisher. And I would like to show you this particular very interesting here. Like there you can see that kingfisher diving and just taking out the fish. There is no fish as such, but at one point he is taking out. You can see that that when it actually dives into the water, there is hardly any sound, and this is what has attracted the design engineer, and he has designed the shape of the bullet train like a beak of the kingfisher, and you'll find that the problem is solved. So what is interesting point, this is what we talk also of the bionics, but what is interesting here is that concept is equally important. And when you design any medical devices, that too customized, that too class 3, I think you will have to look into this aspect very carefully. Finally, the conclusion to end my lecture. So conclusion is that okay, make in India for medical implant, that is the need of the need of the day. That's what I always say, that class 3 devices, more import is there, and therefore we'll have to think about this. I told you that there has to be strong academic linkages of all the educational institute for sharing the human and material resources. And point number 3 is that innovation process should follow the betting model, that it should start from the bed, that means unmet need, then on the bench, and then again go back to the bed. So this is what the innovation process you should follow. Now let me tell you something related to the takeaway message, or maybe the extended conclusion. Now look at this figure. I hope you will appreciate it, that the vaccine for the corona problem is being developed by the Oxford University and AstraZeneca, that is the research-based company. Now, you know, what exactly you find, that the premium educational institute and a research institute is now working with the research-based company. So we have a faith and quality about on the working of the premium and education research institute, and we can think of the sustainability of the product when we talk about the research-based company. And that's why we are closely watching on the development of that particular vaccine. I'm really happy to see that our health minister said just 2 days or 3 days back that the first shot of the that vaccine, I'm ready to tell. It's so interesting, very important, that we believe whatever this. So ultimately, the confidence that we have about the product that will come out with the AstraZeneca University of Oxford is tremendous. And therefore, we are focusing on that particular customer. Now, I am revisiting the slide which I have shown you in the first start. The confidence on the manufacturer from the developed country. I told you that this is very problematic. This needs to be changed. We want that there should be confidence on the manufacturer from it. So we'll have to rather see that there should not be any import, and the doctor should develop the confidence on the manufacturer from India. It is not only the doctor, but even the patient, even the people in general. So for class 3 medical devices, we need to rather look into this. And if at all this thing to happen, what I feel, that the Premier Education Research Institute should work with the research-based company. If both of them work together, naturally, it is possible for us to develop the product which is made in India. And the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat is possible. So, Premium Educational Research Institute, again, the people will say, well, what type of the Premium Education Research Institute you talk about? Here we say that, okay, every institute is premium for us. Every institute is important for us. We may have to take the baby step. Look at the institute like Indian Institute of Sciences and look at the any other institute. Maybe the Indian Institute of Science can take up the steps early and get the product developed fast. But other institute also, they should take the baby steps, try to interact with the companies and see that the class 3 medical devices are developed, and ultimately the reality, the dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat will become the reality. Thank you very much for your patience hearing. I hope this should be okay. Time is almost up. I think some time I should give it to you for the lunch so that I can again join for the next session. Anyhow, so anything from audience side or participant side, Pramod, is it okay?
Yes, sir. Any questions from the participants till now?
Yeah. Anything from participant about any query quickly if I can answer. Otherwise, we do have the other session also, so that I can discuss with you about the other topic and which is more interesting also. Okay. So any
questions? Okay, then we'll better. Is there any questions from the participants?
I will stop sharing so that I can see if there is anything on the chat and anybody would like.
Your chat access is not available, so mostly
It's only available to team members. Okay. Okay. But I think they can ask me any question.
Yeah, you can put the audio on and you can ask the question. Anybody is interested to ask anything?
So I think they must be noting down the queries for the next session so that we can then, because I hope the time is almost up because we have started. Is it done?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir. I will just I would rather add one thing, and we will stop and we'll move to the next session. So here the sir has what R&D has now, as you said, it's a actually what we know is research and development, but it has been today what we have got to know that research and deployment. So it's been a very good to note this thing that whatever the research we are doing, it should be at to the application level and it has to be deployed. So thank you, sir. And it's been a great project what you have shown regarding you had the clay models for the preparation of that. I mean, it's been a very marvelous job, sir. And we hope again with the next session with the same good researchers, and we'll move for the next session by 2 p.m. sir.
2 p.m. Okay. So we'll start at 2 p.m.
Yeah, sir. Yeah, sir.
Okay. So I'll just keep this on only. Or should I switch it off and then again join at 2 o'clock?
What I'll do, you just switch it for now. We'll take the trial at 1:45 around.
1:45. Okay. So I'll join at 1:40. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.